Welcome back to Sim Sunday. I am the Sunday pilot, and today we're in Munich, or should I say today we're in a very snowy Munich. I recorded this flight in mid-January 2021. I've set Active Sky to live weather, so I shouldn't be surprised to see snow in January in Bavaria. And as you can see from the title of this video, we're still in our Interesting Approaches series, and in this flight we're flying to one of my favourite destinations in Europe to fly in flight sim, and that is of course Dubrovnik in Croatia. I'll come back a little bit later and explain why I love Dubrovnik so much in flight sim, but for now let's get straight into Sim Brief and have a look at the flight from Munich down to Dubrovnik. The initial part of this flight is fairly straightforward. We'll be departing on runway 26 left here at Munich with a left-hand turn shortly after takeoff, routing southeast towards the Alps and of course the Adriatic Sea and Croatia. At this stage in the flight, Sim Brief was being a little bit vague on which runway I'd be landing on when I got down to Dubrovnik, but I'll come back to that a little bit later in the flight because that is what's so interesting about this approach into this European city. But for now, let's get back into the cockpit and prepare this Airbus A321 of Lufthansa for the 2-hour flight down to Croatia.
Munich, clearance delivery, Lufthansa 1710, this type Airbus, IFR to Dubrovnik, ready to copy. Lufthansa 1710 is cleared at Dubrovnik Airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain altitude 14,000. Departure frequency is 118.825, squawk 5074.
Captain, the cabin is secure, all passengers are aboard.
Hello Captain, we are ready for pushback. Set parking brake. Waiting your confirmation for good engine start. Left is clear, right is clear.
Bravo 1, tree tank up, Bravo 1-4. Contact towers 119.4 when ready. Taxi, hold short, runway 26, left using taxiway, Whiskey 2, Sierra 7, runway southeast, Sierra 7, Sierra, Bravo 1, tree tango, Bravo 1-4, airport 0557.
Right, as we taxi out to runway 26 left here at Munich, it's time to tell you a little bit about the scenery that I'm using on this flight today. Here in Munich, I'm using the absolutely fantastic scenery from Taxi32Gate, and that's Taxi32Gate Munich for prepared 3D version 4.5. The traffic is of course being generated by Ultimate Traffic Live version 1.2 in this case, and as you can see here at Munich it's generating rather a lot of aircraft on stand. The traffic density slider had been set to 100%. That's something that I changed after this flight, reducing it to something like 33% to try and reduce the amount of traffic that I was experiencing during these flights in busy areas. Other than orbx FTX Global, there's nothing that special about my scenery until we get down to Dubrovnik, where orbx Dubrovnik is installed. Okay, since we're approaching the runway threshold, I'm going to shut up and get this gorgeous Airbus A321 from Aerosoft into the sky.
Lufthansa 1710, cleared for takeoff, runway 26 left, surface wind calm, 25, unit tower. Runway 26 left, Lufthansa 1710 left, Lufthansa 1825. Etihad tree cleared to land, runway 26 left, Etihad tree. Munich Tower, turn at 16, tree tree is 22 miles.
Approaching, 26 left.
sir, here 1633, unit tower. Continue runway 26 left, altimeter 3006. Continue approach.
On runway 26 left.
Favorite part of any flight is breaking through that cloud layer into the blue sky above. I'd held this departure on the runway heading for a little bit longer than I normally would, and that of course was simply due to the inaccurate departure or the inaccurate SID that SimBrief was using here in Munich. The flight plan, flight number and aircraft type that I'm using on this flight between Munich and Dubrovnik is exactly what Lufthansa publish on their website. I was a little bit surprised that Lufthansa were using such a large Airbus on this route between Munich and Dubrovnik, but I guess they must be getting passenger numbers, or they would be choosing to put an A319 or A320 on this particular route. Okay, at this point in the video I'm going to jump forward to the approach into Dubrovnik and talk a little bit about why I find it so interesting. Okay, first things first, I've actually turned off ATC on this approach into Dubrovnik. I already know that we're going to be vectored towards runway 30 because runway 11 at Dubrovnik is the only runway at this airport with an ILS. So if I left it to prepared to direct me into runway 30, I'd be looking at extremely inaccurate approach into the runway over the mountains with a very steep final approach. As a result, the RNAV approach into runway 30 is a lot more interesting and a lot more realistic. But I'll come back to that in a few minutes when we're making our approach into this very interesting little European airport. In a couple of seconds in the MFD, you're going to see the RNAV approach that we're making here at Dubrovnik. As you can see, the aircraft will be following on the autopilot a pre-programmed route, including altitude the whole way down to the runway threshold. However, on arrival into Dubrovnik, this requires some nerves because you're absolutely trusting this RNAV approach to keep you clear of the mountains. And of course, we're going to get lots of terrain warnings as we make this approach. So it's time for me to shut up and let you enjoy my favourite approach into my favourite European airport in Flight Sim.
2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500.
Terrain. Pull up. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up.
Lufthansa 1710, cleared to land. Runway 29er. Cleared to land. Runway 29er. Lufthansa 1710.
Approaching 30.
Dubrovnik Tower, Bombardier.
1000.
X-ray, Hotel, Whiskey, ready to go. Runway 29er, IFR, Opiate, Bombardier, Indian X-ray, Hotel, Whiskey, hold short. Runway 29er, the traffic is too much, final. Hold short, runway 29er, Bombardier, X-ray, Hotel, Whiskey.
Speed.
500.
Speed.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. Retard. Retard 5.
So there you go, guys. Welcome to Dubrovnik, my favourite approach in flight sim. And as you can see, Ultimate Traffic Live has generated a lot of parked aircraft here at the terminal, meaning that I'm going to have to park at a remote stand and my mainly German passengers will have to be bussed to the terminal. And with that, it's time to bring another episode of Sim Sunday to a close. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. I was certainly very happy with that landing. And with that, all that remains for me to say is thanks for watching. And until the next video, fly safe.